All right, thank you. We're back in session.
I'd like to move that we return to open session and state for the record that we only discussed closed agenda item executive director contract while in closed session.
Second?
Okay, been motion and second, and we come back into
Yes.
session. Can I get a verbal
Oh,
vote?
sorry. Yes.
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 All right, thank you. Let's begin with the,
Do we need to?
let's
Okay.
discuss what we,
So the discussion that was had was regarding the compensation for the executive director, and we have agreed, the board and the executive director have agreed on a salary that was an additional 5% increase that was discussed but never officially voted on after his last evaluation in November-ish of 2017. So we're going to go on ahead and make that 5% increase official at this meeting, and then we'll award any other compensation after his performance evaluation for the third year of employment. So
That's a motion.
that is a motion. I move that we codify that 5% increase that we had intended to after the 2017 evaluation.
can I get a second?
Aye. I mean,
Okay.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, moving along. Reports from subcommittees. Community Outreach Subcommittee report.
We had a meeting of, and the primary things that we discussed had to do with collateral materials and some other outreach things. Is our next meeting is the 26th, is it? Tuesday? Yes. The 26th? At what time? 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock. Amanda, do you have any news for us as far as the collateral materials are concerned? This is another example of what we were talking about earlier about not meeting deadlines and not getting information and keep hearing the same thing over and over again. So we'll deal with that in committee, but that's what we have to report.
Is that it?
That's it.
All righty. And your next meeting date was?
Tuesday at
Tuesday.
1 o'clock in the basement hearing room,
Okay, thank you.
Plaza del Sol.
All right, policy and procedure.
We did not have a meeting in March. A week ago, the regularly scheduled meeting is a week before this meeting. But I can bring you up to date on the activities from the previous meeting in January and forward from there. But so at the last policy meeting, there was discussed whether we should be reviewing and tracking every policy in some way so that we keep track or at least make some kind of response to APD. That requires a plan, and I think it requires a certain amount of support. And I think it's up to us to, as a policy subcommittee, to develop a plan. But I think in order to make this work, we really need to include some staff kind of support, and this may be what the role or what the demands of the policy subcommittee on a staff person would be, as was indicated, is going to be hired from here. So I think this is an issue that is ongoing, and I think it also brings up the issue of having a policy analyst, which is, I think, an important position to have in-house. I don't believe the contract is working for contracting that kind of position out. And so I would encourage, and I think I speak perhaps on the part of the subcommittee, but certainly it's my personal opinion that we need to have a policy analyst in-house, and I will lobby for that when this contract comes up for renewal, and that and I think we should start looking for some kind of policy analyst, as I think the budget allows. So as far as activities in the committees that we have a membership on, there have been no meetings of OPA this year, but there have been several meetings of PPRB, and I've included a list of those which I've given to Katrina so that they'll be in the minutes. But I think it's worth just highlighting what's happened at the PPRB. There's been about 15 policies, I think, that have gone through PPRB, and Director Harness mentioned many of those earlier in his report. The ones that are CASA-related or important are the SOP 2.8, which is the on-body recording device, which was heard back in January, and we got an update on tonight. The second one is the Force Review Board, which we've made comments on, and I believe that was well vetted and discussed at the policy meeting. There's been about a dozen other policies or more which have either been moved forward and are of minor interest, such as misdemeanor traffic stops, traffic and roadway, safe driver award program, court services, prisoner transport union, and others. Social media is one of those, and I don't want to dismiss that because that's certainly a policy of interest to APD personnel. Other than that, I have on this list, it indicates what's happened with these. Several have been tabled, most have been passed, and it's here for the record. So that's, are there any questions? That's all I have.
Okay, your next meeting will be?
The next meeting is 4th, I believe, of April. It's 1 week before our next POB meeting.
Okay, thank you. Case Review Subcommittee, Valerie?
Okay, the Case Review Committee was on Tuesday, February the 26th, 2019 at 11:30 a.m. and it was held at the Plaza del Sol building on 2nd Street. All the cases that were on the agenda have been moved and placed tonight to vote on or for discussion. The only change, if you look on the agenda, I want to call attention to one case, and that is case 12518. The vote on that was to put on this evening's non-consent agenda for discussion and a vote by the board. Our next meeting will be held on February the 26th, 2019 at 11:30 a.m. at the Plaza del Sol building. Thank you.
Did you say February?
It's going to be March.
Yeah, I think I said February too, didn't I? I meant March. March 25th.
Okay. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you.
Personnel Subcommittee, Chantal?
Okay, so we are at the point where we are ready to do Director Harness's evaluation. And again, this evaluation period is going to be from December of 2017 through December 2018. So it's a 13-month evaluation. Last meeting, after the last board meeting, we sent out the evaluation tool for you all to review and comment on, and we are at that point where we can vote to use that evaluation tool. So I would make a motion that we accept the evaluation tool proposed at the last board meeting.
I would like to second that motion.
Okay, it's been motion and second. We utilize the evaluation tool that was presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
No, I'm not opposed.
You have a question or a comment?
No, I just wanted to comment. I wanted to thank you personally for all the hard work that you did on this.
Oh,
You
you're
did
welcome.
an amazing job. You really did an amazing job. And the thing that's so exciting about this and so great about it is that it really follows the ordinance to the extent that we know what the ordinance is going to be, and the CASA. And I think for the first time, we're actually processing the work itself and the intention of that. And I think before we were so busy trying to build a system, it was hard to do that. And I can't thank you enough for your great work on that.
Okay,
My pleasure.
all
Okay, so now that that evaluation tool has been proposed, let me talk to you guys about the next steps for it.
Approved.
You have, or approved, you have in your packets a copy of the evaluation tool in SurveyMonkey format, and we have Amanda and Katrina to thank for that. This is what you all will be sent, this is what the stakeholders will be sent, this is what the staff will be sent, I believe. All those parties will get some version of this. And that evaluation tool, now that it's been proposed, or approved, can go out tomorrow morning. I am told it will go out by 9 a.m. You will have 1 week to complete this evaluation. Please do so that the Personnel Subcommittee can do next steps at our March 22nd Personnel meeting, 9:30 in the morning.
Thank you, Chantal.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I'm done.
Can I get my agenda?
I don't have yours.
I gave it to you.
No, I have mine.
Oh, here it is. All righty, thank you. Yeah. Your next meeting is when?
March 22nd.
March 22nd. All right.
You're on that committee, so.
I understand. All righty. All right, moving on to discussion. I now move that all seats are vacant for the chair and vice chair, and I will entertain nominations for, first of all, the chair position.
I'd like to nominate Chantal as chair of the board.
Second.
Okay, it's not a second. Any other
don't
nominations?
second?
You don't second. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Since seeing none, Chair Chantel, you have duly been elected.
Let's take a
Can we have a
vote.
pro forma vote,
We
please?
have to have a vote.
All right, all in favor of Chantel?
Aye.
I was gonna give it to her. Any objections? Thank you. All right, Chantel, you are now formally chair of this body.
Thank you very much.
All right, the chair is open for vice president. I will accept nominations. Val?
Okay, I would like to elect Joanne Fine to serve as vice chair of the board.
Nominate or elect?
Nominate,
Okay.
excuse me.
Okay. Any other nominations?
I nominate Chelsea.
Okay, we have Chelsea and Ms. Fine. Can we get a verbal vote for these positions? I will start with Joanne Fine. All in favor for Joanne Fine?
Aye.
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 Okay, that's 4. All in favor for Chelsea?
Aye.
Aye.
There's 2. Okay. The vote is 4-2. Joanne being selected. Ms. Fine, you are the vice chair of this body.
Okay, thank you,
I think.
I think.
All right. All right.
You're not off the hook, are you?
Yes, I am. I'm running.
Effective now or next
No,
meeting?
I'll finish.
Thank you.
I'll finish this. 2017 annual report, Mr. Harness.
Yes, Chair Waits, Honorable Board, this was before the body last month, and the body set a date certain for comments. I received none, so therefore I will submit the 2017 annual report to City Council and the Mayor's office with a cover memo.
Okay. Any comments for Mr. Harness? Thank you. All righty. Oversight ordinance amendment, C S/2, 018-23.
Yeah, it was emailed to us. How would you like us to proceed with this?
Chair Waits, Vice Chair Galloway, or should I be Chair-elect Galloway? A couple of weeks ago, I forwarded to you some proposed amendments to the oversight ordinance from individual counselors. As Mr. Moya pointed out, there's a special study session for the ordinance on March 21st at 5 o'clock in the City Council chambers. The ordinance will be on the agenda for the March 18th City Council meeting for public comment. If there are, I think that the board should evaluate each of the proposed amendments and decide whether or not they support the proposed amendments or whether or not they're opposed to those amendments.
Can we get your feedback on them? Are there any that stand out that you think need to be changed?
Chair Waits, Vice Chair-elect Fine. I think if you go through them, I believe that the proposed amendments from Councilor Benton are in line with what the board has previously proposed, taking into account also language from APD Forward. I believe one of the issues is Councilor Gibson's proposed amendment that would preclude the board from holding meetings here in City Council chambers.
What's the rationale for that?
The explanation as drafted is the CPOA shall be housed and the board shall hold its meetings in a facility that is separate from any police presence and is located outside of the Albuquerque/Bernalillo County Government Center, the police department, and/or all of the police substations. This amendment would require the board meetings to be held outside of City Hall. The ordinance already requires the CPOA offices to be housed outside of City Hall, a measure that is intended to help promote the agency's appearance of independence. Having the meeting outside of City Hall may go further in promoting independence in fact and in appearance.
May I ask you a question? My question is, don't we have an obligation to do the GovTV thing as part of the ordinance? And isn't this the facility that allows us to do that?
Chair Waits, Vice Chair-elect Fine, that is correct. It creates a conflict in the ordinance. The ordinance requires that we live stream our meetings. When we've attempted to do so for special meetings off-site, it has been nearly impossible to do that. So that causes a conflict within the ordinance.
Thank you.
So you would like us to go through these and form our opinion and whatnot, correct?
Well, Chair Waits, Chair-elect Galloway, I believe the board would need to take a position if they want to state a board position coming up at the next study session.
I agree. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that nobody has a copy of this since it wasn't in the board packet, right? Can we use the overhead projector so that we can at least see this?
It seems to me that we've been through these 2 or 3 times now as a board, and I would like to suggest that we only look at the ones that are dramatically different than what we already have talked about. I think the Councilor Gibson proposal is one that would be evaluated easily at the council, by the council,
Study session.
and doesn't really need our help. We can, I think if the council could see how to do that, well, I suspect they would do it, but if, there's no, there's so many factors that weigh against it, I don't see how we're going to change that much or have much impact. And I've looked at these, and I don't believe there may be 1 or 2, and I'm sure you're more familiar with it, that are dramatically different than we've already voted for. It seems to me that we've been through this enough
You beat this dog? Did we beat this dog?
Yeah.
Mr. Harness, that's why I thought it would be a good idea to ask you if there's anything that puts your hair on fire, so to speak.
Chair Waits, Member Cass, and Vice Chair-elect Fine. There is that Gibson proposal. Additionally, I think the second Gibson proposal is essentially what is already provided to the board for making decisions. I think the one that is probably the most troubling is Councilor Sanchez wants to eliminate the minimum funding level. And he wants to, he proposes the CPOA shall have a dedicated and independent source of funding, administer its own budget in compliance with state and local laws, supervise its own staff in compliance with the city's merit ordinance and contractual services, policies, and procedures. The CPA shall recommend and propose its budget to the mayor and the city council during the city's budget process to carry out the powers and duties under Sections 9-4-1 through 9-4-1-14, including itemized listings for the funding of staff and all necessary operations. So his proposal is to eliminate the language equal to, at a minimum, 0.5% of APD's annual operation budget.
May I ask you, how does that compare to other or oversight groups? Do they have a percentage of the police budget as we do? And how would we be sure that we had enough to do the job? It would certainly put us in the middle of a political process.
Chair Waits, Vice Chair-elect Fine, I can't off the top of my head tell you what other oversight ordinances funding mechanisms are for whether or not it's reflected as a percentage. But certainly this could be the first step to having the CPOA wither on the vine by not adequately funding it without some sort of a minimum threshold established within the ordinance, while the CASA demands that we are adequately funded. Once the CASA is gone, then if there isn't this at least a threshold mechanism for measurement, then I fear that's the first step towards reducing funding and eventually having oversight disappear.
I agree.
And my analysis, I wish that I was looking at it on paper right now, but I worry. Thank you, Chantal.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this is worse than the elimination. I mean, I think I'm pretty sure it's worse than the elimination of the minimum, because it actually says that the CPOA shall have an independent source of funding. So to me, that sounds like they are suggesting that the city not fund us at all.
Right.
And that we would be required to raise our own budget. So it's, I want to call everyone's attention to that and make sure that it wasn't missed.
It may be knee-jerk, but that was my reaction to it,
Yeah.
too.
So we
Is
should
there anything
take a vote.
else? Mr. Harness?
Chair Waits, Vice Chair-elect Fine. No, those are the ones that stick out, that are problematic.
So we definitely, so it was this one, Counselor Sanchez's, and which was the other one that you wanted to?
Gibson, what?
Counselor
not
Gibson's
meeting here.
requirement that meetings be housed outside of City Hall.
I'm just looking to find which one it actually is in here.
While you're looking,
Please.
by a show of hands, who's planning on going Monday? I am.
I'm going to try to.
Anybody else? Mr. Harness, I assume you're going to be there?
I'm sorry,
I'm
Chair,
assuming you're-
Chair Waits, Vice Chair-elect Fine, yes, I'll be there.
Okay, I'll be there with you. Are you going? 5 o'clock Monday.
So I propose a motion that we make a recommendation, the city council reject Counselor Sanchez's proposed amendment relating to our budget.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been motion and second that we propose or take a position that the city council rejects that proposal. All in
Yes,
favor?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? No opposed? Okay.
And then on the Gibson one, we'd just let them know
We
that,
sh-
that we can't, that's against the ordinance, we have to do it.
Okay.
So I'll just cover that one on there.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Harness?
Chair Waits, no, not as far as that agenda item.
Any other questions for Mr. Harness? Okay. Thank you. That was the oversight ordinance. OMA, Foster.
Yes, Chair Waits, I believe it was last week, Attorney Gooch sent out a letter to respond to some allegations regarding violations of the Open Meetings Act and IPRA from Dr. Carl Foster, who I learned today was actually a member of the Police Oversight Commission. Now, this is an issue that arose back in December of 2015. And if you'll recall, your counsel at that point recommended at the January 2016 meeting that a series of emails be posted in order to remedy what he was alleging were violations. So you'll note on the CPOA's website that there are hundreds of emails that are posted. So for some reason, that issue has been brought up again by Dr. Foster and his attorney. And so Attorney Gooch would like you to approve the letter that she's drafted to go out to him in response to those renewed allegations for
And
those incidents back in 2015, 2016.
And if you haven't had a chance to read the letter says from Ms. Gooch, our attorney, that it shows the agenda and has attachments of when these things came up at the board meeting. We did answer the questions, we did do the work. As I recall, am I missing anything?
Chair Waits, Vice Chair-elect Fine. No. It was the position of your former counsel that the remedy as offered and as executed was enough to satisfy
Okay.
any alleged violations.
I move that we accept Ms. Gooch's letter as written.
I'll second that,
Okay.
but I have a question.
It's been motion and second that we approve
want to
the
discuss
letter as written. Are there any discussions?
Yes, I'm just curious, the only reference I see in Ms. Gooch's letter that this was a letter sent on January 2019, but what was the claim made at that point? I didn't find that letter from Mr. Owens in that file, in those three attachments that you referenced. And I don't understand this seemed like a stale complaint. Everything was done 3 years ago, or there 2.5 years ago, and then suddenly it appears. And so nothing transpired in the interim, or?
Chair Waits, Member Dr. Cass, no, we're as flummoxed as is the city, as is everyone, as to how now all of a sudden this is being resurrected, that there's something that somehow is missing, and so there's been requests for specificity for whatever that is, and perhaps it will be provided and perhaps it won't be.
This wasn't
because
lost in
this-
the mail for 3 years?
No.
Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chantal? I mean, Chelsea?
I didn't receive a copy of the letter, I don't think, so I'm just going to state that as a conflict for me and not vote.
All right. So, she sustains. Okay. Can't
Can't sustain. You can either
Yeah.
vote yea or nay.
Abstain.
abstain.
in
I
accordance-
didn't, I cited it as a conflict. Like, I'm in conflict because I haven't been able to review it, but I think the board's vote can carry it.
She could abstain.
No, I can't abstain. Well, I
You
can,
recuse. You can
yeah,
recuse.
that's essentially what I'm doing. I can recuse myself from the vote because
Okay.
I have a conflict.
All right. we're
Conflict
good.
being, I couldn't review the materials,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So it's 5-1.
It's 5-0
5-0.
5-0.
She recused.
with a recusal.
Yeah, 5-0. Okay, thank you. All right, let's move on to briefing the court. Judge Browning?
Yes, Chair Waits, Honorable Board, we do now have a new judge for the settlement agreement, the CASA. Judge Browning has been appointed. If you read the email from the Department of Justice, Judge Browning is taking the position that he would like to continue in the tradition of how that case was being handled, a la Judge Brack, with public hearings and public input, which I remind everyone is we are the only CASA that allows for that in any of these instances across the United States. The Department of Justice is asking all of the stakeholders and the amici to draft a 1 to 2 page statement about the history of the party in the action, so that the judge can get up to speed quicker than going through transcripts and doing all of that. So the email contained a deadline of March 29th to draft something to get to the judge, so I'm bringing this to your attention.
Okay.
I have a and you're prepared to draft that email, or draft that summary? Is that, I mean, it seems that you're the, we do have a role here, and seems to me that you're the most appropriate person to draft that. That was a question.
Chair Waits, Dr. Cass, yes, I would be prepared to draft it.
I just read it by the chair. Is that-
Are you looking for input from us? Or are you noticing us that this is happening?
Chair Waits, Chair-elect Galloway, I'm always looking for input from the board, so
I would move to ask Director Harness to draft the appropriate letter to the court.
And I'm willing to help if I can. If you need me, I'll be happy to. I mean, I've here a long time, so if you need help, I'm happy to do it. Does that work for you, ma'am?
Works for me.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion on the floor.
A
And we have
second.
a second. Okay, it's been motion and second. Joanne, second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Harness. All right. All right, let's get to the consent agenda cases.
Okay,
Ms. Fowler?
okay, excuse me. Consent agenda cases, first are the administratively closed cases. We have case 232-18, 260-18, 005-19, 025-19, 237-18, 264-18, 020-19, 031-19, 239-18, 002-19, 022-19, 044-19, 257-18, 003-19, 023-19, 053-19, 259-18, 004-19, and 024-19. And I'd like to make a motion to accept these cases.
Seconded.
Second.
It's been motion and second that we accept the cases as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
One opposed. Thank you.
Okay, next we have exonerated and unfound case, number 052-18. I make a motion to accept the findings.
Second.
It's been motion and second that we accept the finding on the exonerated case, which was unfounded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed?
Okay, next we have exonerated, not sustained, case 212-18. I make a motion to accept the findings.
I second.
It's been motion and second that we accept the findings on 212-18. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All absent.
Now, the next case we have is the non-consent agenda. This was one that was administratively closed case. It's 125-18. It's open for discussion.
Sure, I put this, I think my feedback was the feedback that resulted in this case being placed on the non-consent agenda. The facts of this case, as I understand them to be, is that it's a little bit sensitive, I suppose. A woman was eating at Fuddruckers restaurant. An officer had ordered food and was waiting for his food at the restaurant. And in the meantime, a woman arrived, and the officer and the woman removed themselves from the restaurant. And then the complainant states that she and her children then witnessed the officer and the woman engaged in a sexual act in a vehicle. And the CPOA administratively closed the case. And our standard, our sort of like invented standard again, is that we can administratively close cases that are not minimally substantiated. But the CPOA in this investigation found that the officer did in fact eat at Fuddruckers on the day the complainant says she witnessed this happening. And so I think I think that that's a substantiation of the complaint. Not the complaint in whole, but it substantiates, her allegations to a degree. So it is minimally substantiated at least. And so I therefore thought that the category administratively closed wasn't appropriate and that the case should be investigated. The CPOA did proffer that the complainant didn't participate in the investigation after submitting the complaint, but that wouldn't be the only aspect of an investigation. The officer would still need to be interviewed, so I thought it would be appropriate that this case be investigated as opposed to administratively closed.
I have a question. Why would we bring the officer in if the person that witnessed the event is not willing to cooperate?
Just because of a strict application of our standards, which is, was this complaint substantiated or minimally substantiated or not? And it's our policy that, if a case can be minimally substantiated, then it shall be investigated. And so it's just an application of the standard that we have.
I would like to know from Director Harness, what was done with this case? I mean, what was the process that was followed?
Chair Waits, Board Member Dr. Cass, yes, we did pull a CAD report to confirm that the officer was at the restaurant during the allegations. We attempted to retrieve surveillance video from the restaurant. We were unable to do so. We attempted to speak with the complainant via email and via phone, and there was no cooperation. Aside from minimally substantiating a complaint, admin closed has other standards as well. A lack of information is one of them. In this case, I don't believe we have enough information to go forward for a full investigation. We have no evidence but for the fact that the officer was at the restaurant. The complaint was initially upset because the officer was ordering food while in uniform. And then, oh, by the way, I witnessed this sex act in the parking lot. And I believe that if something like this so egregious was witnessed, I would think that one would want to participate and at least give us a statement on which we could base an investigation.
I don't think,
Therefore, excuse me,
sorry.
therefore, in consultation with the investigator in this case, we made the decision to administratively close it.
May I respond to just one thing?
Sure.
I really, really do not think that we should be in the business of speculating as to why or why not somebody didn't want to participate in a formal interview. We shouldn't decide what we're going to do with cases based on guesses about that. I think that that would be really dangerous, and I would advise against it.
Chair Waits and Member Vandeventer, you're doing that exactly. I never speculated as to why the person didn't cooperate. I simply stated the fact that she did not.
No, you
And without
said,
and without that statement, it's my decision not to move forward with the case.
but what you said was that I would think if something like that so egregious had in fact occurred, that she would have participated. That's a speculation about her state of mind or her reasoning for behaving in a certain way, and we'll just never know why she did or did not participate. We can't know that.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Do we have a motion?
I would like to, I'd move that we accept this administratively closed case as presented.
Okay. It's a motion that we accept the administratively closed case as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
We got 4-2. All righty. Serious use of force, officers involved case. We have none. Field-based review of Garrity materials, 186-16. Mr. Harness, do you have?
Yes, Chair Waits, this is on the Garrity material agenda. Member Vandeventer proposed the motion for review of the Garrity materials in this civilian complaint. Another complaint where we did not have a complainant come forward to give us information. However, based upon Member Vandeventer's review of the file, she believes that it's important for the board to review the Garrity materials in this case. That would be the interview of the officer. So therefore, that's why it was placed on the agenda.
So I move that we make these materials available for review for our next meeting.
Okay, there's a motion and second that the Garrity materials be available, be made available to us. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No opposed.
Just a reminder, isn't it still true that they have to go, whoever wants to review it has to go to make an arrangement with Professional Standards, formerly IA, and go and see it at the police department?
Correct.
Yes, Chair Waits, Board Member, Chair Waits, Vice Chair-elect Fine. That is correct. So we will make arrangements for those materials to be over at Professional Standards, And we will get you the contact information to arrange for a time to review those.
Is that necessary? It was my understanding that you all have this material in your files in your offices.
No, it's part of the
Chair
rules.
Waits, Chair-elect Galloway, this is so that you're in compliance with the ordinance.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have
I
other
so
business.
moved.
Oh,
I
you
have
have
other
it.
business.
Hold on.
I'm so sorry to do this.
What are, oh, I'm
I
sorry.
have other business.
I held it off. I marked it out right here. So I am so sorry.
That's okay. I just have a couple of things. One that's just kind of a shout out that I meant to do after our last board meeting, but it was Valentine's Day and I didn't want to be here. And then one for your all's consideration. So the first is my son's preschool had like a career day where 3 officers from the Northeast Area Command participated with a bunch of 2 to 5-year-olds that have no idea what's going on. So just a shout out to Zach Herbst, Leah Lopez, and Chris Brito from the Northeast Area Command. The director tells me that they were absolutely amazing with the kids. They were very patient. And Officer Lopez wasn't working. That wasn't one of her shift days, so she came in on a day off because she wanted the girls at the school to see what women can do. So I think that is amazing that they would spend their time and do community outreach that way. And I did say that I wanted to express my thanks for their involvement with that. So just so you all are aware of something that's being done. The other thing that I would like you all to consider, it's been on my mind that for our subcommittee levels, we don't have a process defined for the election of the chair. And I think that it would just be good practice at the same time that we elect the chair and vice chair for the board, that we formally do that at the committee levels as well, elect the chair for the subcommittees, so that it's not just one person in perpetuity, but it's a deliberate act of who we want leading those committees. So I would recommend that this month at each of the committees that we take that action and just get in the practice of doing that. Even if we have, just so that we get on the same schedule. And then I would like to kind of take your temperature and see what you guys think about amending our policies and procedures to include that process as well.
I believe this was part of the process in an earlier version of our policies and procedures. And I haven't been able to find it in the most recent version, but it did exist that the committees elected their chair, they elected their own chair, and that presumably would be when they were reconstituted after appointment by the chair of the POB. So it seems to me that new committee appointments would have to be formalized, and then would lead naturally to the election of a chair. And there's no provision in there that says that you can't succeed yourself.
Exactly.
So, I think it's all already there in spirit, and I think it just needs to get started by committee appointments with the election of officers, that occurs after the election of officers.
Do we all feel that way? We just need to codify it and do it?
Yeah, you're just talking about the committee deciding who's going to be the chair. Yeah, I think that's what most of us have been doing.
I would suggest that we do it in March, yeah, and just formally do it in March every year.
Okay.
Cool, awesome.
Motion to that effect?
I don't think we can because it wasn't on the agenda, but we can certainly have something drafted for our next board meeting.
But just go ahead and do it.
Exactly, yeah.
Do we need to change it in our policies and procedures?
I'll draft something between now and next
That's a
meeting.
Tina thing, yeah.
Or I can ask Tina too, yeah. Okay, now, motion to adjourn.
Any other business before we adjourn?
I move that we adjourn. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.